It started with the main character named Lu walking through the city at night and suddenly getting hungry. He immediately noticed a nearby diner. Lu went inside and saw that the hostess was working until late, although she usually closed earlier. A very beautiful lady was sitting at one of the tables, whom Lu immediately noticed. Looking around, he noticed many beautiful girls, but did not understand why they were there. Previously, there were almost no visitors to this cafe because, as he remembered, the owners were an elderly couple. Suddenly, another girl approached Lu and asked him what he wanted. He suddenly wanted milk. Confused, he ordered a portion of fried rice to go, and the girl accepted his order. When Lu turned around, he noticed the ladies looking at him, and one of the girls said he was handsome. Meanwhile, the news announced that strange phenomena have recently been occurring that were previously considered superstition. And now this phenomenon is called the resurrection of supernatural power, although the reason for its appearance is still unknown, and citizens are strongly advised to refrain from walking at night. Suddenly, the lights in the cafe went out. Lu was a little scared by the news he heard, and he was also very worried that the lights had gone out. When the light was turned on again, he found unknown creatures surrounding him. He was stunned and did not understand what was happening. One of them put its paw on his shoulder. It was a girl with a gene mutation who had a huge green paw, and she began to approach him, thinking that he was waiting for this chance. She stuck out her huge tongue and tried to invade Lu's mouth. The light bulb began to crackle and emit lightning again. The monsters were also confused about what was happening and could not understand what kind of creature it was or what was happening. The creature warned Lu that if he did not want to die here, he should swallow it. It went inside the guy as if he swallowed him whole. Although the monster made the decision for him, Lu hoped he wouldn't blame him, given the changes in the world. Lu felt his body begin to change. He gained strength. Now was not the time for delays. The monster should have explained everything later. Now they had to finish the monsters. All the monsters were destroyed, and the monster inside Lu, named Baisho, turned out to be a traitor, transferring power to man. Monsters have gathered to destroy the traitor. Since Lu did not yet realize his strength, he was afraid of monsters. Inside him, Baisho said that they urgently needed to deal with the monster girl, since his strength had dried up. Frightened Lu did not understand what the monster was talking about and how he managed to defeat his enemies. Baisho, who was inside Lu, calmed him down, promising to help, and Lu just had to concentrate and strike. The monster girl screamed in pain as the blow landed. She couldn't withstand even one blow, and Lu realized his enormous strength. Unknown creatures, which people called monsters, existed beyond scientific explanation. These creatures appeared in the human world along with the resurrection of supernatural power, and the reasons for this mystical phenomenon remained a mystery. Now Lu couldn't help but believe what seemed absurd, because he himself had become one of them. The monster inside Lu ordered him to eat the demon's flesh, and he took a piece and prepared to eat it. After taking a bite, he felt disgusted. But Baisho insisted that Lu endure it and not spit out anything. Because if he didn't eat enough flesh, they both risked death. Having difficulty swallowing a piece of the demon, Lu wondered how long he would have to do this because it was terribly disgusting. Suddenly, he found himself in a place he had never seen before. This was Lu's spiritual world that he had entered. Until Baisho heals his wounds, his body will not recover, and only then can Lu be freed from him. Lu took the monster in his arms and remembered that he had spoken so beautifully at the beginning. But in reality, he needed someone who could consume the flesh of these creatures to help him heal his wounds. The monster, looking at the guy, did not see this as a problem, and if it weren't for Lu, he would already be dead. Due to the rudeness of the monster, the guy instantly got rid of it and declared that he would find another owner who would help him get rid of this terrible monster. The monster told the guy not to dream because he was Chilin, the most mysterious creature in the world, and wanted to see a person who could drive him out. Qilin, a mysterious creature in the form of a one-horned deer covered with scales, according to legends, was supposed to be kind and careful with all living creatures, and he was a harbinger of happy events. The next day, events continued to unfold at Boli High School. We moved to third grade, group number 2. The guys argued that one of them walked at night and did not hear about any resurrection of supernatural power. Excitedly, a classmate asked Lu if he had ever met any monsters. Lu laughed and said that he ate them all himself because one of them had just been digested in his stomach. This was the whole point of Lu, because no one could joke like him. A girl suddenly appeared in front of the hero and ordered everyone to submit their homework. He looked at her as if he had just fallen in love. Classmates began turning in their homework to head boy Duan. The disappointed girl left, knowing that Lu probably hadn't written anything. Lu asked if Duan had done. Xiaoshui had plastic surgery, but a classmate said that she had always been like this. Pointing to the photo, Lu began to deny, saying that this is exactly what she looked like before. But the way she looked now was completely different from before. Classmates claimed that the girl looked identical as before. However, Lu continued to look at her, realizing that Duan Xiaoshui something is wrong. At school, all the boys were in love with her. Everyone paid attention to her and watched her every move. This was suspicious because this had never been observed before. The hero decided to follow the girl and hid behind the bushes. However, the girl discovered him immediately and realized who was hiding behind the bushes. As soon as he was discovered, she asked what he was doing here, and the guy couldn't think of anything better than to say that he was waiting for someone. Realizing his mistake, he noticed that it was late and time to go home, and he told the girl that it was time for her to leave too. But suddenly the girl invited the guy to go with her, and the hero was stunned. After a while, he lay in bed and enjoyed the moment. The girl also looked at him embarrassedly and felt pleasant sensations. They ended up in the same bed together, and Lu himself didn't understand how it happened. He liked it incredibly much because it was the first time for him. Suddenly, the hero realized that this was some kind of confusion, and he needed to come to his senses. His hands did not obey him at all, and he could not move them. He was struck by the thought that his first experience was with the headman. Lu suddenly shouted at the girl to stop. He then got out of bed to talk to her. He started apologizing, saying that he didn't mean it at all. Duan clearly wanted this and noticed that he was incredibly nervous and then asked him to wait since she wanted to take a shower. When the girl got out of bed, she went to take a shower. The hero breathed a sigh of relief and his excitement subsided. Before getting into the shower, the girl threw her bra in his direction. Then she closed the door behind her and went to the shower. Target instantly appeared next to the guy, and meanwhile, Lu tried to understand what was wrong with his classmate and asked the monster if he could figure out what was wrong with her. The embarrassed monster paid no attention, as he thought that Lu would not want him to look, and yet only a werewolf fox could be so seductive. Lu began to analyze the situation and wanted to understand the werefox's weaknesses. Silin replied that there were only 5 of them. The first weak point, the werewolf fox is afraid of monsters. The second weak point is that she is afraid of wizards. The third weakness is that she is afraid of the gods. The fourth weak point is that she is afraid of the rich. And fifth, she is afraid of virtues. Unfortunately, Lu realized that from the entire list that Selin listed, nothing was suitable. The girl came out of the bathroom and exclaimed that she had finally washed herself. Smiling, Lu asked her how well she had washed and why she didn't wash off her dirt. The shocked fox did not understand how the guy knew this. Boldly answering, the hero said that the stench of a fox can be smelled from any distance. In this case, the girl no longer needed to pretend, and she was furious and declared that this was the end of Lu. Meanwhile, Selin counted the tails and suddenly realized that this werewolf fox had 6 tails. A fight between 2 human monsters began, and they struck each other hard. The werewolf fox girl was incredibly fast, but the guy was not inferior to her in agility. After another attack, the girl grew another tail. Selin immediately realized that the situation was becoming dangerous and ordered Lu to run away from here. If it's the 9-tailed fox, then they're both in danger. When the fox saw that Lu was about to run away, she immediately blocked his way. The brave guy courageously attacked the werewolf fox. Suddenly, Lu fought off her hands and took a leap. This jump was aimed directly at the window, and breaking the glass with his body, he got out of the building. With a smile on his face and joy, he said goodbye to the fox. Thus, the hero realized that the girl had also merged with another monster, just like Selin and Lu. Looking around, the guy was afraid that the girl would catch up with him. Selin explained that this is different because not all magical creatures are like him, and they hate people the most. With the advent of the resurrection of supernatural power, beings capable of entering the bodies of people with similar traits gradually took over their bodies, thoughts, memories, and desires. That girl must have become a liberated beauty due to the influence of the werewolf fox. But Lu realized that the former headman had never been a liberated beauty in her life, and this had nothing to do with old age, since she had always been cultured and balanced. Selin looked at the hero and thought that this could not be. Did something terrible really happen? Suddenly, they both realized that they had been fooled, and this creature was far from a werewolf fox. The guy took Selin in his arms and began to express his dissatisfaction, and the monster promised him to make him invincible with the help of his experience and strength, but never fulfilled his promise. Selin was deeply upset, since he had indeed made such promises, but could not keep them. After that, he decided to show Lu his wounds, and all these glowing dots on his body represented wounds, and now he could not even see what kind of creature was in front of him because of his wounds. The hero realized that he was unfair to the monster, but it turned out that the monster can heal itself when it eats the flesh of monsters. Selin had not yet decided what exactly to heal, and gave Lu the right to choose, and the guy did not care what wound to heal. The monster's body looked like a skill tree system, but Selin didn't quite understand what he was talking about, and it was likely that with every wound he healed, Lu would gain a new skill, and the guy suggested starting with restoring his eyes so that they could understand how to deal with enemies. Selin's healing ability, called Golden Gaze, has activated, and now when he looks at a creature with this ability, he can immediately determine what kind of creature it is. Immediately after this, Lu went to his classmate's house to find out who she really was. The guy burst into the house, kicked in the door, and shouted that they had not seen each other for a long time, and he even missed him. As soon as he activated the Golden Gaze, he immediately saw the girl's true essence. It was a masked girl. She was able to turn into a fox, which means that the classmate constantly hid her true essence under a mask. Otherwise, she would not have been able to arouse the interest of the masked girl. The guy, unsure of his abilities, immediately asked Selin whether it was possible to defeat the masked girl. The monster confidently replied that the guy should act. The masked girl herself was going to go look for him, but he himself returned for his death. With incredible dexterity, Lu jumped several meters up and began to pull the girl's tails. Using his superhuman strength, he was able to tear off her disguise and wanted to see what she was hiding. The girl screamed furiously in pain because she was declassified. Despite the girl's screams, the guy continued to make powerful lightning attacks. He was shocked when he saw that he had defeated the monster with just one blow. Lu, perplexed, asked what he should do now and what would happen to her when she came to her senses. Selin smiled, at first not understanding the guy's question, but then ordered him to eat the girl while she was unconscious. The guy, looking at the girl, was dumbfounded by the monster's request because he clearly didn't want to eat his classmate. Understanding Selen's request, he thought that this must be a joke. The imperturbable monster actually told him that in order to maintain life, they needed to constantly consume the flesh of unknown creatures. The energy from the last meal had dried up, and if they missed this chance, then there was no telling when they would be able to replenish their flesh reserves. And realizing this, the guy realized that he really did not want to die. But he still didn't want to eat his classmate. The monster inside the guy was indignant, not approving of Lu's answer. Selen shouted that the guy was too indecisive, and if the piece didn't fit into his throat, then the monster itself could take possession of the guy's body. Lu suddenly ordered the monster to stop. The hero began to lean on and did not allow the monster to eat his classmate. Begging not to touch the girl, Lu held the monster's hand, preventing him touching his classmate, but the monster was indignant because they had done this before. It was completely different because it was his classmate. In his memories, this girl seemed completely different, but her true essence was kind. She even helped him before, because he didn't always do his homework. And if the teacher didn't ask about his homework, then she didn't raise the issue that he didn't pass. But Selen remained unshakable. He didn't care at all. The unperturbed monster began to devour the girl, and he started from the neck. Having bitten off a piece of purple flesh, he was saturated with its energy and power. After which he swallowed everything to the last drop. As soon as he ate part of the girl's body, he immediately returned to normal. But fortunately, the guy discovered that the monster did not touch the girl's body and did not eat her. He only talked about magical creatures, and there was no talk about him eating people. From incredible fright, the guy began to feel dizzy, and he could not stand on his feet. In fact, this was due to the fact that Selen had been in his body for too long, and for now it would be a little difficult for him to stand, and as soon as he rested, it would immediately go away. The hero was also interested in how long the flesh of this masked woman would last, and the monster replied that for 3 days, which means that within 3 days, you need to find someone else. Otherwise, they could die at any time. Sometime later, night fell, and events continued to occur in the classmate's house. The guy dozed off from fatigue, but woke up after some time. When he woke up, it wasn't even clear to him where he was. The girl immediately met him, as she was waiting for him to wake up. An incredibly beautiful girl, sweet and charming, also sat in front of him. Literally at the same time, they asked each other how they were feeling. Immediately after this, awkwardness followed, as they were unusual in showing concern for each other. Overcoming awkwardness and uncertainty, the guy replied that he was fine. The innocent girl immediately asked if Lu knew what kind of creature was inside her. By way of explanation, the hero said that there was something like a demon in her, but now she was the same again. Looking at the girl, the guy also noticed that her appearance had not changed at all. Instantly, he began to question his inner monster, wondering why she had not returned to her previous form. And Selen immediately responded that people who came into contact with unknown people always experienced side effects, and this was one of them. The girl approached the worried guy with interest, wanting to know more about this situation. Overcoming his excitement, Lu was able to squeeze out that if a demon possessed her, the side effects would remain forever. These side effects were extremely unusual, as they manifested themselves in the form of incredible beauty in the girl. The girl became significantly more attractive, and the fact that these side effects would remain was quite encouraging. The lady had one more question, as she wanted to understand why the demon chose her. This happened because they were similar to each other. These creatures were called unknown, and the one who entered it was called a mask girl. They are masters at pretending. But the guy also believed that there was nothing wrong with her true form. The invasion of such demons does not happen just like that. Perhaps in the near future, the hero will have to reveal the secret that the girl is hiding. After some time, the guy returned home and realized that this could not continue. Instantly, lightning began to flicker on Lu's body. Selin appeared in front of him again, who was interested in why the guy no longer wants to continue, and the hero needs to find the power of the unknown. But if he can't do it in time, what will happen then? Then the guy decided to heal another wound of Selin and thought about which one should be healed next. First of all, he needed to cure something that would help save his life, otherwise he could die when faced with the unknown. With delight, the guy immediately asked Selin which of his paws was the fastest. The monster replied that he could choose anyone, since each had its own unique move, and the guy also wondered if he should choose a paw. The choice of paw was obviously not optimal, since his spiritual powers were just starting to recover, and he would be much faster with a functioning leg, and it would be more useful now. The hero decided to listen to the monster's advice and chose the skill to improve one of his legs. Thanks to the restoration of his leg, his thunderstep ability was activated, and now he not only runs fast, but can also climb walls. The guy's joy was visible on his face. With a feeling of satisfaction, he turned off the light and went to bed. The next morning, events continued at Boli High School. One of the classmates asked the other how much yesterday's homework was, but the guy immediately clarified which subjects the assignment was for, since he needed to complete work in all subjects. One of the smart classmates replied that all homework costs 45 yuan, and suddenly the class president entered the room. She immediately overheard a conversation between two classmates about buying homework. The enterprising classmate also added that yesterday there was an assignment in 4 subjects, but there were especially many assignments in mathematics, so he paid 15 yuan for this particular assignment. Not embarrassed and wanting to earn money, he asked a classmate if he needed his assignment. The indignant classmate immediately objected that he did not have enough money to pay today. Lu turned to his 2 classmates and said that he had already transferred the money since he was hosting a treat today. The ignorant classmate was immensely grateful to him because he did not spend a single yuan to get his homework. Suddenly, a classmate selling homework took the buyer's hand. The guy immediately became indignant because he did not understand what was going on and asked if he had received the money. The smart guy immediately said that only Lu could copy his homework, and it didn't matter whether they copied from him or not. Another classmate was still very happy because he thought of something else and asked the enterprising guy not to worry. He remembered all the rules. The head girl continued to watch and did not understand what was happening in this class. Meanwhile, the homework began to be copied. Lu began to copy his homework with incredible speed and expressiveness, and all his classmates stood over him to later copy from him. The guy quickly finished and, when his classmates copied them, asked them to return all the notebooks to the headman. Suddenly, the headman walked up to the guy and addressed him. She acted rather strangely and asked what was the matter. The hero followed her and asked what happened and what was wrong. The head girl was nervous and didn't know how to say it, but she asked what they were doing in class. It was the first time the girl came to school so early, and Lu knew what she wanted to ask, but Du Xiujian always did this and provided homework. She knew he was like this, but she didn't expect him to take money from them or even raise the price. It wasn't that bad, but one day Lu remembered a really strange incident. One school day in Dusujen walked up to the guy and addressed him. He asked if he remembered that he ate 1 piece of chips from him yesterday. The hero began to yawn as he did not attach any importance to it and said that it really happened. Suddenly, Dusujen poked the phone right in the hero's face. It was a calculation that a bag of chips is only 75 grams, worth 5.8 yuan, and 1 piece of chips weighs between 2 and 2.5 grams, and if rounded up, then Lu owes him 0.19 yuan. It was at that moment that the guy was stunned by what was happening. Even the headman was amazed by this, since she did not expect this from her classmate. The girl could not understand how he could behave like that. Suddenly, Lu noticed something was happening in the classroom. Something unusual was happening, which they immediately noticed. One of their classmates was lying on the floor, clutching his arm and screaming in pain. The hero immediately asked what happened, and another classmate also asked him if he didn't like Lin Xuan, Du Sui Jenu, since she just spilled milk and this happened. She poured milk into her mug. As a result, I accidentally spilled milk on my skirt. She immediately felt embarrassed and asked her classmates for a napkin. Dukshu Jen came over and immediately said that he had a napkin and handed it to the girl. But his hand suddenly tightened, and he couldn't just hand the napkin to the girl. He began to squeeze his hand more and more, experiencing an unpleasant feeling. Forcibly, he told her to take the napkins and use them for free. But a voice inside him told him to take the money from her. A classmate immediately reacted, saying that if he doesn't want it, then he shouldn't give it, because she thought that he was already going crazy. With just one touch, he destroyed an entire desk. Everyone thought that perhaps he was stressed due to school or even signs of schizophrenia. It was indeed possible, and Lu decided to take him to the infirmary. Empathetic Lu decided to pay instead of his classmate and transferred 2 yuan to Dosui's account. Jen? And then he harmlessly threw a whole pack of napkins to a classmate. As they walked away, the hero winked at Dusu Jen, because I wanted to discuss a profitable deal with him. The guys went to the backyard of the school, where there was no one. With suspicion, Dusu Gang asked why they came here, but Lu counter-questioned, asking what happened to him in class. The classmate himself did not understand this. He felt as if someone inside him was trying to fight. With the intention of finding out the truth, he asked even if he gave him 10,000 yuan to kill him, would he do it? Confused, Dushu Gang looked at Lu, thinking he was joking, and replied that he couldn't do that, but suddenly he seemed stuck. Then, with the gloom of Dusu Jen exclaimed that he would not miss such an opportunity. Lu had already anticipated this and instantly activated his golden gaze. With the help of a golden gaze, the hero realized that this is a goblin who always benefits. He has greed that he cannot hide, and at the same time, he is very worried about his importance. If he is constantly scolded, his mood will immediately worsen. Lu loudly declared that it would be easy and he would kill him. However, he suddenly discovered something terrible. Everything was very vague. Too little time had passed to use the golden gaze, because the body had not yet recovered. A moment later, the goblin had already struck Lu with an incredibly powerful blow, and he tried to defend himself. He had to act quickly, because his life was in danger, but he saw nothing in front of him. Suddenly, we are back to the events that took place 2 years ago. This was during my junior high school days. Outside the door, the parents were discussing whether the mother might need treatment. After all, it's already a late stage. Treatment didn't make much sense. Chemotherapy was very expensive, and the risks were huge, and the father was afraid that they might lose all their money, and their son had just started high school, and they had a lot of expenses. The father probably decided to take the easier route. Suddenly, Dusu burst into the room Jen, who shouted that it shouldn't be like this. With rage, he asked why his father did not want to save his mother. He rushed to his mother and said that he would no longer go to school. It would be better to spend the money on his mother's treatment. The guy hugged his mother tightly, and she began to stroke his head. He was furious and kept saying that he didn't want his mom to die. Then we flash forward to events that happened a year ago. The father approached his son to give him money, but the guy replied that he already had money. After all, he earned them himself at his school. The father was indignant, considering this nonsense. The main thing for him was education. They had enough money, and he did not need to earn it. The woman cried, but understood that it was the bitter truth. Turning around, Dushu Geng said that he also thought that there was enough money before, but what was the result, and where is mom now? The upset father always thought that his son blamed him, but Dusu Jen didn't see the point in blaming his father, because he knows that there was no other choice then, but he also understood. For him, money is never superfluous, and he no longer wants to lose loved ones. Now all his actions are aimed at only one thing. On earnings, the guy completely turned into a goblin and a frantic fight began. Lu began to retreat to launch a surprise counterattack. He accurately ran to the exit to make an attack completely unexpectedly. When the goblin rushed at the guy from behind, he used a thunder step. And after the jump, Selen told him to insult the goblin, and Lu called him a stupid freak. The goblin looked at the guy in surprise and didn't understand why he was saying that, but it didn't work, and he needed to come up with something more offensive. When Lu once again called the goblin a stupid idiot, the head girl noticed the noise. The goblin was preparing to jump up to hit Lu. Suddenly, the village head came into the backyard and asked what was going on. She was shocked by what she saw, a goblin fighting with Lu. The goblin was beside himself with rage and was ready to attack anyone. Lu noticed coming elders. The elder began to scream loudly, scared of the goblin, and her scream was so piercing that even the goblin began to scream in pain and covered his ears. Even Lu felt pain from this scream and was surprised how the headman could make such sounds. This made a strong impression on everyone who witnessed the scene. The guy asked the headman to stop immediately, and the girl realized that the goblin was Desnosdu and did not understand why Lu was on the roof, as if he was praying to heaven. Lu came up with an excuse, saying that he was just doing gymnastics, but his eyes saw nothing, and he assured the girl that everything would be fine soon. She noticed that the goblin had recovered and was ready to attack. She shouted at Lu to stop playing around. Lu had to massage acupuncture points to come to his senses, and the girl wanted to scold him right now. The goblin began to growl and look at the girl. With huge paws and a wide-open mouth, he rushed at her. Realizing that the goblin had noticed her, the girl begged Lu to intervene quickly. Lu protected the girl and attacked the goblin with a powerful blow to the head. The goblin screamed in pain from the blow and flew to the side. Selen finally recovered and joined Lu. The hero slowly approached the goblin and assured him that his end was near. The goblin continued to attack and strike Lu. He had enormous strength and easily repelled the guy's attacks. Lu, who did not understand anything, flew several tens of meters to the side as the goblin knocked him over. As a result, Lu hit the door near the headman and began to lose consciousness. Blood began to flow from his mouth, and he made inhuman sounds of pain. The goblin gloated and was ready to continue the attack, not noticing his fatigue. Laughing, he approached the girl, preparing to continue his attack on Lu. The goblin lifted Lu off the ground by his head and taunted him. The girl looked at this with a heavy heart and worried about the guy. But suddenly she turned to the goblin, insulting him and calling him a piece of crap, and also noted that he was just a little friend. The headwoman continued to insult him, declaring that his friend was not little, but he simply did not exist. The touchy goblin threw Lu to the ground. In a rage, he wanted to gnaw the girl's flesh with his rotten, stinking teeth. The elder was in fear and began to get very nervous. Suddenly, the goblin felt something. Lu forcibly held his leg to prevent him from attacking the headman. The headman asked him to take advantage of this moment and turned to Selen. Lu asked if he could use Thunderstep again, but Selen warned that doing so would come with serious consequences. Using Thunderstep would mean half a day of complete powerlessness for Lu, giving the goblin its to tear him to pieces. The hero decided to take a risk and activated his Thunderstep with all his might. He held the goblin and dragged him back to the school, but the goblin resisted and did not want to go back there. This required enormous effort since the goblin was extremely heavy. But gradually, the goblin began to turn back into his ordinary classmate. When they returned to the school premises, the classmate had regained his normal uniform. While the goblin began to lose its form, The guys found themselves exhausted on the ground, with no strength left for further struggle. Lu was able to absorb the goblin with his last strength and completely absorbed him. The head girl looked at her classmate, who had just lost his demon power and was immobilized. The green goblin completely fell into Lu's mouth. The girl immediately turned around and asked how he was feeling. Slightly nervous, the guy covered his mouth and replied that everything was fine. An outraged classmate began asking questions, wanting to know what happened and who this monster was. It seemed to dissipate like smoke, but Lu was unshakable and said that he didn't know. The girl continued to insist. She wanted an explanation of the whole situation. The hero agreed to tell her, but she had to help him skip class, and he sank to the ground. The girl leaned towards him to ask what was wrong with him. He didn't feel very well, and it looked like he had a broken leg. Sometime later, they sat in a cafe together and discussed how they both suffered from this incomprehensible situation. The guy answered her frankly and said that he was the one who suffered the most. The girl, who pressed him with questions, asked how he recovered so quickly. The guy found an excuse and said that he just lay on the roof for a while and everything healed. But the head girl understood that he was much stronger than ordinary people, almost like a superhero from a movie. Unperturbed, Lu refused to consider himself a superhero, and if she had not come to the rescue, all his bones would have been crushed. With interest, she asked if he knew why the mask wearer chose her. After Lu tore off her mask, she became different and can even swear now. This amused Lu a little, and he started laughing. The girl didn't like this at all and didn't think it was that funny. However, Lu said with confidence that it was really funny. After all, she hides something different from curses. These are precisely the thoughts caused by this situation. It sometimes seemed to her that if no one cursed in this world, it would be much better, and she could be a completely ordinary girl. Lu placed his hand gently on her head and stroked it. He explained that there is a lot of injustice, evil people, and disgusting situations in this world, and swearing is sometimes an integral part of expressing one's feelings and experiences. Swearing can be useful if used at the right time. Sometimes even superheroes need to express my rage. The head woman realized that Lu was speaking correctly and wisely. Suddenly, she stood up and said that she was giving him a treat because he saved her. But Lu believed that the girl should not pay because she was the one who saved him. Suddenly, they received 56 yuan into their accounts. It was their classmate who showed them the transfer to the bank account and said that he was giving them a treat. The surprised guy and girl began to discuss that perhaps it was too much and that the end of the world might be due to the fact that he had spent all his money. A sympathetic classmate asked them not to express such expressions, since he was trying very hard to save money so as not to lose his loved ones. She snuggled a little closer to him because, truth be told, sometimes they would make exceptions to the rules. The man felt disgusted because he didn't like the woman's answer. He immediately pushed the girl away and asked why. She fell to the ground from the man's push. The indignant woman began to make excuses because he didn't like it according to the rules, and not according to the rules either. She thought that he just liked to mock people. The man stood right above the girl and did not think that he was mocking people. Nervous, the lady did not understand what he meant and believed that he was too excited. The unshakable man ordered the girl to finish because he could smell this sulfur smell from her body. Instantly, she transformed and saw a silver dagger made of hybrid oil. It seemed to her that her death had come today. The lady was covered in sweat. The man continued to stand with the knife and apologized to her for what had happened. The man shook his head and said that the apology was pointless because it was important for him to follow the rules, and he could not make an exception. The girl, still sweating and scared, told him that she was forced to resort to this to protect her friends and herself. The man, having cooled down slightly, asked who her friends were and why they broke the rules that were so important to him. She explained to him that her friends were in danger and she had to act outside the rules to save them. The man thought about it and asked to tell us more about the situation. The girl began to tell the story from the beginning, explaining how it all began with the appearance of unknown forces in their lives and how they began to come into conflict. The man listened carefully and asked questions to better understand the situation. At the end of the story, he said that while he does not condone breaking rules, he understands that there are exceptions and situations where rules must be broken to protect yourself and loved ones. He also offered to help the girl train and control her abilities so that she would no longer be forced to use hybrid oil. The lady, with mixed feelings, agreed, and they began to discuss the details of this help. The girl asked the man to spare her, promising gratitude in return. However, the man did not approve of her proposal. His answer disappointed him. Now he was worried about how to inform management about what had happened, given their offer of cooperation. Suddenly, the hoverboard told him that there was a 2% chance of him losing his cooperation with management because of this incident. This was a real problem, as he could lose his authority. In the end, he had to hide the truth and say that she ran away. Hoverboard again warned that there was an 83% chance that management would find out the truth. Nanjinghong realized that it was better to focus on other unknown issues. In this case, the probability of finding another unknown person in the area is 95%. By chance, he discovered one of the unknown people and told him that he had noticed him trying something tasty. It was an ordinary passerby walking down the street. Passing by him, Nanjinghong asked him if he liked something. Lu, not understanding what was happening, felt that something was wrong. The man turned and asked the passerby again if he liked what he had just eaten. Target instantly appeared near the guy and ordered him to quickly run away. The enemy on the hoverboard stood motionless, carefully monitoring the situation. Meanwhile, Lu decided to use his thunderstep to escape from the stranger as quickly as possible. The hoverboard confidently stated that the probability of a successful escape was 0%. And immediately he activated his unusual ability in the form of a red laser. With the help of this laser, Lu realized that this was Tselin in front of him, and this aroused his great interest. Meanwhile, Lu was running up the building as fast as he could. With the help of his incredible strength and magical abilities, he managed to climb onto the roof and continued to run along it. He kept an eye out for the man to follow him. The unknown hunter used a hoverboard to reach the top of the building, riding on a strange mechanism. When the hero felt that danger was overtaking him, he immediately jumped off the roof and continued running. As he landed on the ground, he noticed something unusual. A feeling that had never haunted him before came over him. He stepped on some kind of magical seal installed by the hunter of the unknown himself. This seal completely deprived Lu of his freedom, and he could not make a single movement. Nanjinghong sat opposite him in the chair, calmly watching him and his suffering. The angry man immediately asked who he was, since he was neither human nor sealan. The persistent guy remained silent as he was angry. Suddenly, the man realized that there was neither a person nor an unknown person here. Only two pigs were standing here, and he ordered Baisho to come out. The monster immediately began talking through Lu's body and asked what the man wanted from him. The hunter was interested in why Baisho was hiding in a human body. Baisho replied that he was simply afraid that the great unknown specialist would capture him. The unknown specialist ordered Baisho to stop mocking and be serious, since people have organized the unknown directorate, and he can force him to work there to get treatment for Baisho. The mechanism told the man that the probability of Baisho's consent was 0.2%. In fact, the probability was 0, and Baisho began to leave, and Lu ordered him to stay with this boy. The big monster immediately left the guy's body, and Lu asked if they knew each other. Nanjinghong did not deny this, because they had already met and knew each other before. Suddenly, Lu turned into a green goblin. His hand also transformed into a goblin's hand. He quickly ran to get away from the unknown hunter. Although Baisho's chance of escape was extremely low, the man realized, it's better that he escapes, and they just devoured the goblin and haven't had time to digest it yet, and if they put more pressure on them now, Baisho might die, and in the end, even the unknown should know that food must be chewed thoroughly. The hero began to have memories of how he absorbed the green goblin. He even asked the headman to let him out of class so that his classmates would not see him eating with a mouthful of blood. It turned out that this time he could not digest the goblin. The hero and Baisho were at a loss and did not know what to do with the green goblin. He was the target and was supposed to saturate Baisho. Baisho decided to use the flesh without a known one to restore his stomach. This goblin can be divided into 2 portions. It was good for both of them because Lu had come up with a skill he wanted to learn. Meanwhile, the guy fell unconscious to the ground. He felt bad, but his body regained its previous appearance. At the same time, a hunter of unknowns was watching him. He was surprised that Lu didn't even notice him, because thanks to him, no one had eaten him yet, and he couldn't even say thank you. Either way, the hunter was going to turn him in. The man asked the Segway to contact the old man so that he would send people. The mechanism replied that the probability of successfully sending a message was 100%. Sometime later, the people called by the old man arrived. They were amazed by the many unknowns, because previously they had doubts about their truth. Although all of these unknowns belonged to Class B, it was still impressive to destroy so many at once. The existence of the unknown was recognized only a couple of weeks ago. No one has seen such a revival of supernatural power for more than 1,000 years. And the department where the people came from was only founded a week ago. Although the unknowns were few in number before their rebirth, they still existed. Even then, 3 great specialists fought with monsters, Nanjinghong, Chanchandai, and Tonghwabi. The lady was outraged because the guy didn't even mention the name of the head of the department. The boss was doing research and providing them with some equipment, but they say that when he was asked to come out of retirement, he was so pathetic that the other 2 bosses did not pay attention to him. Indignant, the girl could not understand how the whole world had become like this, and they didn't need anything else. When the girl pushed the unknown device, it rolled in the other direction. And suddenly he started signaling, and the girl immediately leaned over to check. While using her portable gadget, she noticed something unusual. It was a trace of an unknown Class S. The guy and girl immediately went to patrol the area, but it was already late, and they were quite exhausted, despite the fact that they continued to patrol, and the unknowns were most active at night. The territory had already been inspected by specialists, and the girl doubted whether it needed to be checked. After her hesitation, the bracelet suddenly began to make sounds. This was a signal that there was definitely an unknown person, and they needed to escape as soon as possible. The guys noticed that the unknown woman had killed another girl. She was extremely bloodthirsty and powerful, much stronger than the unknowns they had seen before. Once she completed the hunted girl, she immediately turned her attention to the unknown hunters. They were scared by the fact that she instantly destroyed an unknown Class B. Suddenly, she disappeared. The hunters no longer saw her. Even a handheld unknown detector could not determine the class of this unknown. Sometime later, the men invited Jinghong to eat with them. The man was surprised since this happened right in the morgue. This didn't bother anyone at all because they would all end up here someday. Jinghong agreed and sat down to join the men for a meal. They were also interested in whether Jinghong helped Lao Ma with business. The hunter really helped, even destroyed a couple of unknowns, but he noticed that the teacher was unhappy. In fact, it was just an illusion of dissatisfaction, and it is not easy for ordinary people to deal with the resurrection of supernatural power, and he was glad that there were responsible people like him. The hunter of the unknown understood that life was now easier for ordinary people. The teacher was interested in why Qinghong invited him here, because he was much stronger. Scratching the back of his head, the man admitted to the teacher that he was not the smartest student. The teacher looked languidly into Qinghong's eyes and asked him to guess how many people had come here every day since the resurrection of the supernatural began. The man didn't know the answer and asked how much. The old man did not know this, because he was not involved in this, but the number was significant. Those who were brought here were still lucky, but those who were swallowed up by the unknown in terrible agony were unlucky. Rising from the table, the elder invited Qinghong to follow him. Together, they approached the cells with the dead. A moment later, the old man began to open one of the cells. Inside lay a wounded man with a look of horror on his face, frozen in the throes of death. The men looked at him, trying to understand what could have happened. This man was also mutilated for fun. He was probably an unknown person of at least S-class. The old man also noticed that 2 bites on the man's neck were inflicted at the same time. The unknown hunter instantly realized that it could be a snake. The old man continued to smile as if nothing had happened because the man's assumption was correct. This creature was extremely dangerous. It can only be killed by lightning. You must call Tonghuabi. The experienced elder immediately realized that Qinghong was pretending to be a fool. After all, he had one acquaintance, Selin, who could cope with the snake. At this time, we moved to Lu's room, and suddenly he sneezed heavily. At the same time, he sneezed, although he did not have a cold, and probably someone remembered him. Late in the evening, the head girl lay in her bed and thought about how Lu swallowed that unknown person, but it seemed to her that everything was still happening. It was as if she were wandering in another dimension. I hoped this wouldn't happen again today. Suddenly, she got out of bed, and her eyes glowed with a bright red light. There was an aura of the unknown around her, because she herself was obsessed with the unknown. The next day, Lu was at school and calmly walked along the corridor. Suddenly, he noticed the head girl chatting with someone. It was the same unknown hunter who introduced himself to the headman as elder brother Lu. Lu was shocked when he found out that it was the eccentric Nanjinghong came and decided to get him again. Lu's reaction surprised the headman. Nevertheless, she confidently began to wave her hand to the guy and shout that his brother had come to see him. The shocked guy realized that this man could not be his brother, since he was twice his age, and asked the headman to leave them alone, since Lu wanted to talk to this imposter. The lady quietly walked away, not wanting to disturb the 2 brothers. The hero immediately realized that the man had come for Baisho. Jinghong actually came for him because he needed Lu's help. At this time, Lu thought that the man had no intention of attacking him and confidently replied that Baisho had already refused him. The self-confident man repeated that he came specifically for Lu. The hero felt that the man did not understand their connection with Baisho. He, however, understood that to do this, he needed to let Lu eat an unknown Class S, and then he would be fed for a month. And yet he did not want to return to ordinary life. The guy was extremely surprised and could not understand how he could help this man, since he was not as strong as Baisho. Indeed, Jinghong was about to fight the unknown, and he needed Lu to use the power of lightning to break through the defense of the unknown. The surprised guy did not expect that it could be so simple, but an experienced hunter of the unknown assured him that it was quite doable. The hero agreed, and they cemented their agreement with a handshake. Once back in the world of Baisho, Lu apologized to him for his decision. To Baisho, since if he opposed Lu, they wouldn't be able to talk. The guy began to be intrigued by what kind of relationship Selin had with this Jinghong. But instead of having boring conversations, it is better to monitor the situation in the outside world, Baisho replied. A little later, Lu and Jinghong arrived at their destination. The building was strikingly beautiful, and it was immediately apparent that its organization had been absent for 10 days. There were rumors that they even invited some other organizations to work with them, but Jinghong did not go into details. Lu was a little nervous, realizing that they had quite a lot of power. However, Jinghong thought differently. After all, people working in the organization still remain just people, and hunters are a completely different category. At this time, in an unknown world, a certain woman received information about many unknown people who had disappeared. She ordered her monsters to scout out the situation. The monsters observed everything and gave her information about the brutal murders of the unknown. For the lady, it was a mysterious aura, and she wanted to find out who was killing the unknowns. It was a certain lady who still could not be traced. The headman had unusual strength and was much stronger than ordinary unknowns. Plunging into the events taking place in the organization, Lu did not understand what the unknown hunter meant. Did he think that their relationship with the people from this place was closer than his and Jinghong's? Manhwa sighed, then began open door. Ma sat in front of them. He was glad that Jinghong came to him. He immediately showed interest and asked to tell how they got into his office. They came here to get all the necessary materials on the serpent. The attentive boss invited them to sit down and discuss the issue, offering them fresh tea. But Jinghong suddenly became angry, slammed the table, and demanded that the necessary information be given to them immediately. The boss noticed that the man had always had a tendency to be quick-tempered, even since childhood. In such a situation, Jinghong decided that it was better for them to act independently and refuse further cooperation. The boss asked him not to make hasty decisions, arguing that the materials on the snake had already been transferred to his deputy, and if he took over the case right now, it could negatively affect his reputation. The man emphasized that he cares much less about his reputation than about people's lives. He asked whether their department was working with unknowns or simply succeeding in service through aggression, which led to the spilling of the tea on the table. As a result of aggressive actions, the men broke all the tea utensils. Lu felt uncomfortable and watched in amazement at what was happening. Suddenly, the boss took out a suitcase and put it on the table. These were the very materials on the snake that Jinghong demanded. Even though the boss hid them well, Jinghong still found the materials. Jinghong was unhappy, believing that this circus was unnecessary. The boss got up from the table to rest and warned that if a man was taking materials from him, he had better take away his old bones. Jinghong asked the boss with interest if he really did that. The boss calmly looked at Jinghong and said that he would now have to buy a new tea set. The boss on vacation wanted a black set with a pattern. When leaving the office, they said goodbye to the boss and asked him to send the report, since Jinghong was supposed to receive extra pay for his work. Since they were already here anyway, Jinghong asked the boss to provide them with some weapons. The main character immediately became interested in this. What Lu saw next delighted him. He discovered an amazing arsenal in front of him, where many types of weapons were hidden. Every item in this arsenal was interesting to him. He found a detector on his arm that could detect how strong an unknown person was, but it was useless for a guy who already had Baisho. Then the guy took out a new unknown object and asked what it was. The man asked if he had played Pokemon and if he knew what a Pokeball was, but Lu refused, afraid it might eat him. Sighing heavily, he realized that in any case, all these items were high-tech garbage. The boss eventually gave him some kind of weapon, realizing that he still wouldn't be able to use it himself. This item looked like a bone. Lu decided that it could serve as spare food. The hunter asked the guy to try to pour his thunder power into the object. As he did so, the bone began to transform into a stunning lightning sword, causing amazement. This artifact was amazing, and Lu asked Jinghong if he had used it before. The hunter looked at the guy confidently and replied that he really used him. Surprised, Lu asked if he also had the power of thunder. Somewhat upset, the man could not give an answer to this. The hero realized that the answer was no, because Jinghong called him for help, declaring that he could not use this artifact, so it was now on him. Suddenly, Baisho inside Lu asked him not to give out unnecessary information. The hunter left, instructing the guy to look through the materials, because tomorrow they would have to act. A little embarrassed, the hero agreed with the man's proposal. We move to the era of Chungqiu and the warring kingdoms, in particular the kingdom of Zhen. We draw attention to the immortal commander Ding Ren. He turned to the gods of the main rivers and lakes, ordering them to listen to him. In response to his order, the dragon rushes, the god of lightning awakens, a strong wind rises, and heavy rain begins to fall. Events unfolded exactly like this. First, the god of lightning woke up. Then a strong wind rose and heavy rain began. One man stood out among the crowd. He approached the commander and reported that he had heard about Ding Ren. In addition, he added that he was incredibly lucky to meet him today. The commander was grateful for the compliment and asked the stranger his name. The stranger asked to call himself Lei and offered to become friends. The commander felt that Lim might have some advice for him. The thoughtful man noted that this might be advice. The scene shifts to the house where the tea party took place. The owner of the house wondered why Le didn't study at home today and asked him not to say that he missed him. The man believed that the teacher's skill was at the highest level, but the glory of Jixianya has recently surpassed even the fame of a master. They were about the same age, but Jixiang was already so famous that this caused some concern. The master realized that Le had not come only to talk about this. He realized that Li's knowledge was mostly superficial, and he was unlikely to be able to compare with him, and if he was really so talented, then the master would be glad to be his friend. The teacher felt that Li was waiting for some instructions from him, but did not quite understand what exactly. The commander thought that Lei probably wanted to give him advice. Lu hoped that Brother Jishan will be able to read from his facial expression how his teacher is feeling. Suddenly, it becomes clear that Lu is reading manga. He literally says that he wants to test how impulsive Li is, while Jishan doesn't show any irritation. Teacher, Li and Jishan gathered at one table. When the commander looked at his teacher, he saw that his soul was calm and pure, like his name. He understood that exposing the teacher could harm his reputation, so he chose to deliberately disguise his intentions. Lu noted that the teacher had an unhealthy complexion and that it was worth paying attention to. The teacher smiled, thinking that Jishan was wrong because it is difficult for a young person to hide his emotions, and yet in reality, he understood that his student had lost his composure, and if this was revealed, his reputation would be at risk, so he needed to cover him. The elder laughed, admitting that a new generation always comes to replace the old, and asked to look at him again. As the situation became more tense, the commander decided to continue with the plan, and he decided to mention vital energy. Best regards. Jishan added that his teacher's vital energy was thriving, and that despite the imperfections of his body, he would be able to quickly improve his health. The irritated old man again exclaimed that the commander was mistaken. He realized that he must talk to his student, because words addressed to young people can quickly become distorted, and he must help his student. The old man said that in this world, a new generation always replaces the old, and it seems that the time has come to retire, and he asked to look at him again. Jishan realized that this man had met many different people in his life, and should understand that he should judge very carefully. Nervous, he realized that he saw the fate of the old man through his abilities, and should not allow shame in old age, and he should not be disparaging towards this person, who finds it most difficult to maintain clarity of mind with age. Xian, without losing his concentration, said that the elder's aura was very unstable and it was difficult for him to make accurate predictions. Li thought perhaps Xian is still very young and his strength is not as great as his teacher. With a smile, the teacher exclaimed that this was right on target. He remembered how, back in his mother's womb, the teacher pointed to her stomach and said that his weakest side was the instability of his aura. With wariness and surprise, Li realized that they were equal after all. The master hoped that this would be an incentive for Lei to practice more to live up to his reputation, and he asked if Lei wanted to take another look at him. Realizing that his imperturbable appearance was the natural state of his face, Li noticed that the teacher was not so easy to guess, and he could not stop admiring him. With complete satisfaction, Li exclaimed that he admired both of them. The two strongest looked at Lei and came to the same conclusion. They were already tired. When the guy took out something, he was contemplating whether he should do it. After all, this was unknown. Sighing heavily, he considered the possible consequences if he released that same unknown person. He remembered the teacher earlier saying that his fame exceeded his abilities, but his modesty and good manners were clear personality traits. Xian noted that he did not want to offend anyone, but the teacher no longer strives to further comprehend the teachings. He was stuck on what he had achieved, and yet his endurance and spiritual wisdom have always been admired. Li realized that perhaps they were simply flattering each other, and it was difficult for him to feel genuine admiration for both. And he opened the very box where the nameless one was. After all, he sincerely believed that this nameless one would help them establish a true friendship. Sometime later, events developed in the palace where the most worthy people of the Gen Kingdom gathered. The teacher and Xian met again, and the elder noticed that the guy had significantly expanded his horizons since that time. For Xian, their meeting brought much more benefits than he expected. But suddenly, a nameless man approached them. He was very close to both the teacher and Xian. They both felt that there was a snake behind them and wondered if either of them needed to kill it. The elder wanted Xian attacked because he could easily deal with such a small, nameless one, and this was a great opportunity for him to gain glory if he used the thunder strike. The guy also thought that let the eldest gentleman attack because he no longer needs to prove anything, but he still has to show everyone that he is not so old. At the same time, Li thought that it didn't matter which of them made the first move, as long as one of them attacked. And then the view of the other will change. The snake in the form of an unknown person was getting closer. The elder wanted young Xian to do this and show everyone that he was better, and for him to take responsibility for the well-being of the people. At the same time, Xian wanted the elder to show everyone that he was still capable of benefiting the people. Lu, reading this, understood that they were both striving for a friend's best friend, and they were truly good people. The insidious snake was getting closer, opening its mouth to strike with its bite. The snake towered in front of the two masters. It was of enormous size and looked at them menacingly. With a powerful move, she dealt a devastating blow to both of them. People started screaming and running away in panic because the snake had swallowed up Mr. Hu and Shanya. These two had incredible magical powers, and people wondered what kind of terrible creature it was that could absorb even them. It seemed like two powerful forces were opposing each other, as if supporting hypocrisy. Two faceless and hypocritical creatures came face to face, and they turned into the very snakes that attacked them. After that, Lu immediately closed the book. The guy could not understand how the kindness of three people could give birth to such a snake. If just one of them had told the truth, the tragedy could have been lifted, and they could have become true friends. Selin also thought about this story, but it did not occur to her what could be said to this. Fortunately, the magical artifact turned out to be powerful enough to withstand the two-headed snakes. Soon, the unknown hunter and the hero were walking around the city, looking for the snake. The guy was amazed that the snake was wandering around the city. However, the unknown hunter was skeptical, and he wanted to quickly complete the inspection and return to the city, and the mechanism warned that there was a 96% chance that the snake would catch up with them. Taking the mechanism in his hands, Lu asked him why this was so. Jinghong realized that the snake might be interested in the wounded Silen because for her he is like sweet candy. Suddenly, two blood-red eyes were fixed on the hero and the hunter. It was a snake, and it was very close to them. Despite this, they continued to walk, suspecting nothing. The wise man ordered Lu to go ahead to leave him. Outraged, the guy immediately began to deny, claiming that he had to confront the snake. He compared the situation to fishing, where if he himself becomes the bait, the fish will not bite. Hunter Jinghong ordered the mechanism to follow Lu. Thus, they together acted as bait for the huge snake. The man left, and Lu began to examine the mechanism, trying to understand how it worked, and it seemed to him that it was advanced technology of the future. Looking around, the hero realized that his comrade had left and decided he was a traitor. A moment later, the elder began to call the guy. He was curious about where he could find food in this place. With some nervousness, Lu pointed in which direction the city could be found and advised the old man to go in that direction. Before Lu's eyes, strange changes took place. The old man began to change into a monstrous snake. Lu was surprised when he saw that the old man began to grow another head. He seemed to be a mutant. Fear gripped Lu as the snake approached. He was afraid of it like never before. The snake, having received a second head, looked hungry and did not know what to do. Baisho advised the snake to look for food on the ground and not pay attention to the old man. The other head assured that the old man would be able to cope quite well, despite his age. Lu suddenly realized that Baisho was trying to provoke him and realized that there was no point in responding to this. Baisho asked Lu to ignore him because he would like to intervene if he could. Lu decided that he would try to use that strange artifact that can control lightning. This mysterious artifact was the key to using lightning as a weapon. Within seconds, Lu felt a powerful blow from the snake's tail. The sinister snake scornfully remarked that the old man seemed unable to cope. The guy rose to his feet. The snake had underestimated him too much. The two-headed snake was not going to retreat because Selen had just boasted to them. Lu asked if he needed time to attack. The self-confident snake inquired with satisfaction whether the ancient nameless man had enough strength for the last words. Angrily, the guy turned to Baisho, asking how much time he still needed to attack the snake. The threatening snake was so close to the guy that it could destroy him with one blow. But suddenly one of the heads noticed something. The mechanism informed him that the chance of being bitten was 0%. He began to create a defensive scheme. A magical seal was laid around him, which was supposed to protect him from the serpent. The nameless hunter watched this and hoped that the mechanism would help him. The snake was paralyzed, and they needed to make a final attack to kill it. The heads of the serpent sincerely believed that he would not dare to make a fatal attack. However, the hunter did not understand where he got such confidence from, because of course he was not able to cope with the snake, because he was just a man. One of the heads mockingly asked what he was doing behind their back. The hunter pointed to Lu, because he was capable of this, because he was not just a person. The two heads of the snake instantly turned to see who would be their killer. But when they turned around, they saw nothing, only the remaining trace. When they looked up, they saw Lu preparing for a powerful attack using a new artifact. They were amazed by Lu's power and greatness, not expecting such strength from an ordinary guy. The hero, with incredible strength and power, rushed to attack the merciless two-headed snake. With a single attack, he cut the snake into pieces. Both heads screamed furiously in pain, their screams echoing throughout the area. the guy managed to seriously wound the powerful snake. This ability turned out to be much cooler than he thought. His comrade, without doubt in him, was watching what was happening. Using his new ability, he installed the mechanism directly into the snake's body. And with its help, lightning continuously rained down on the enemy with powerful attacks. Suddenly, the snake enveloped Jinghong and Lu with its body. They clearly did not expect this. Jinghong could no longer get out, and he didn't understand how Lu fell into this trap. This was due to his exhaustion. He spent too much energy installing the circuit. The two-headed serpent wondered why they were going to keep him inside this scheme. One of the heads asked if they thought it would be easier to defeat the great serpent this way. Lu begged Jinghong to come up with something because he was an expert. Suddenly, the man asked the guy if he had heard about weak points. And Lu actually heard there was even a saying about how to hit the enemy in the heart. The man exclaimed why the guy was waiting, because this was his concern. But Lu only heard the saying and didn't know where this snake's weak point was. A moment later, the snake squeezed them even tighter and they screamed in pain. If they don't do something now, there may not be another chance. Jinghong said that his weak point was his heart and asked Lu to close his eyes and feel. Lu began meditating to understand where his heart beats. The guy realized with horror that he didn't feel anything. But Selen, calling him a fool, showed that the heart is here. This place was right at hand. Lu and Jinghong combined their remaining strength to launch an incredibly powerful attack right into the heart of the evil snake. And with a powerful attack, the hit was made straight to the heart. When the hero attacked, he expected to see the snake's reaction and what would happen next. The snake screamed in incredible pain and his body immediately began to bleed. This was an excellent result, and the man asked to continue the attack. The hero doubted, since perhaps he would not be able to repeat this a second time. Since Baisho's wounds have still not healed, using the ability twice in a short period of time will cause the corresponding part to stop working. And now he couldn't even move his hand. But with the last of his strength, he used his ability to thunderstep right into the heart of the serpent. With inner calm, the man said that they should leave because they would not be able to defeat him today. The snake instantly looked at his enemies and tried to figure out how they could escape. Two heads quickly attacked the heroes. The hero was not going to give up because they had been fighting for so long. He smiled, realizing that he had come up with something new. The snakes' heads were very close, ready to attack the two guys. Suddenly, Lu jumped up and shouted that this would be his last blow. With crushing power, he gathered all his strength into one blow, preparing to destroy the enraged snake. His strength seemed immense, as if he himself had become incredible.